Well, at least Mayenda scored. Fair play to Annie, one of the lads that I'm in a championship panel chat with, who is a Bristol City fan, and I was having quite a bit of a rant about the ref during the game. But from Bristol City's point of view, I've got to credit them. That is a really important win for them. I think because West Brom lost at Coventry and Millwall got hammered at Blackburn last time I checked, that means it's probably now going to be between Bristol City, Coventry, and Middlesbrough for two places in fifth and sixth, because Borough obviously scored in the 90th minute to get past Plymouth, and Coventry obviously beat West Brom, which I had a funny feeling they would. And looking at funny feelings, I had a funny feeling we'd lose today's game, actually. As much as I obviously didn't want to lose, and as much as I didn't want to come away empty-handed, I also think that once I saw we went down to 10 men, I just thought that was going to be a massive ask from there to get anything. And we've got to give respect to Bristol City. I think they've got some. I think it's only the top four have a stronger home record this season at Ashton Gate. Ashton Gate, that makes no sense. But you know what I mean? Stronger home records than Bristol City. And, based out, if I had to look at it, I missed the first 15 minutes, but I managed to watch 75 minutes of the rest of the game. And quickly, as you guys saw, I didn't do a review of the Swansea game because I was in Egypt and I thought, yeah, maybe I'm being fickle here, but I couldn't be bothered with a lot of the comments after last week's defeat. So I just thought, nah, I'm going to enjoy myself. But I thought I'll talk about today's game because obviously, look, I'm back. I'm coming back to the Northeast over the weekend. But either way, but I did manage to watch most of today's game. First half, I thought Sunderland actually did really, really well, considering that we were down to 10 men for most of it. And yeah, Bristol City had a lot of the ball, had more of the territory. But once you're down to 10 men, especially with that long left in the game as well to do it, I'm not surprised Bristol City had a lot of the tempo. But I thought Sunderland actually looked quite threatening. Or I'll rephrase that. Eleizer Mayenda in particular looked quite threatening on the break. And I've got to say, for me, he was our best player today, hands down, by some way. And that's not a dig at the rest of the lads, maybe apart from Tommy Watson, but who, with Mayenda though, he had next to nothing to work with, and his goal let's talk quickly about the goal. His goal reminded me of Wilson Isidore's goal at Hull. Now I know obviously you can make whatever different comparisons you want, but the fact is both start in our own third. They have to get past one man to get into the fight into the opposition half. Mayenda then has to beat a man on the edge of the box pretty much. Likewise, Isidore, if I remember rightly, had to do similar at Hull, and it's a really composed finish for Mayenda for his 8th goal of the season. And again, don't put it past him ending up in double figures. Before the end of the season. I've got to quickly criticise Isidore. I think Isidore, although he didn't have much to work with, and I'm still an Isidore fan by the way, I'm not having this revisionism that he's a bad player, because I don't think he is. But at the same time, the one thing he doesn't do, and I think he needs to start doing, is start to win more aerial duels and to win more battles in the air. That's the one thing I think that probably lets Isidore down a few times, other than the fact he probably does miss chances you'd expect him to score, and he scores the hard ones, which is just mental. But I still love you, Wilson, But yeah, on Mayenda, I think Mayenda just showed a lot of strength, tenacity, showed some pace, and I think anytime we in the limited occasions where we did go forward, I think a lot of it was down to his work. And for me, I wouldn't complain if he started up front, at least for the next 3 league games. And then obviously when we get to the playoffs, we're going to have to start a conundrum here about what to do. And to be fair to Labrise as well, if I'm going to look at the team, he started a stronger team today than what I originally thought he would. We knew apparently Job was going to be on the bench, so I wouldn't be surprised if Job plays on Monday against Blackburn, injury permitting, of course. And Lefay, look, I think today's game wasn't... Once we went down to 10 men, that game was not going to suit Lefay at all, because he likes someone who's like in the sentinel role. He likes to make things happen, he likes to progress forward, drive up the pitch, and has got the quality to do so. Whereas a lot of the game, as soon as Hume got sent off, and I'll get to that decision in a minute, but once that happened, we were always going to be on the back foot. And quickly, on the second half, I think personally for me, Bristol City did deserve to win the game. I think they were the ones, obviously as expected, they were the ones who were pushing forward. We knew they had to win today. They had to, and I'm not excusing Sunderland for that, because we've still got to go out and put the effort in. And obviously the 10 men thing, it just made it inevitable for me that Bristol City were going to probably get a couple of goals. And to be fair, the first goal from... what's his name? Zach Knight or Jason Knight? I can't remember. No, sorry, Rob Dickey. I'm talking nonsense. Rob Dickey. What a fantastic goal, I've got to say. Goals like that, I don't mind conceding, because they're just a great finish. Patterson had no chance with it. The second goal, from what I can remember, I think it was like we didn't really deal with the situation in the build up to it well enough, but also at the same time, I think was it Max Bird? Is it Max Bird? Am I making that up? No, it's one of their fullbacks. See, I'm terrible with names. But I remember it was their number 2, I think, who ended up scoring. And I'm pretty sure it took a deflection on the way past Pato. So I think Patterson couldn't have done much about that. But again, I'm not a goalkeeper. And quickly on Pato, I thought Pato's... I actually think Pato's been better recently. I know you can say, oh, well, that's, it's not a high bar, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But at the same time, I think Patterson has looked much better in recent games. But maybe I'm just watching a different game to everyone else. Right. I'm not going to try and make it too much about the referee because... I do get the argument that other way around, we are going to be screaming for this to be a red on Trai Hume. But for me, that is nonsense. I find it baffling that if you look at Trai Hume, I think it's Naki Wells who goes down. I can't remember who it is, but he barely clips him from but just what I've seen on the angles, and I appreciate referees have one instance to look at this. But for me, I think that's the wrong call. I think that it's... If you're going to give... I think for me, you can say that that's a foul and a yellow, potentially, but is it strong enough to warrant a red card? The only thing I can think of is last man. But how many times have we got that sort of decision when someone's bearing down through on goal and then someone does that and we end up getting someone gets sent off against us for that? I don't know. But look, I think it was a reaction from a lot of fans, and social media is not the biggest barometer, but I think a lot of fans' reaction would tell you that it was not a red card. But, if you think it was a red, then that's fair enough, as long as you're respectful about it in the comments. But yeah, look, today's performance was probably the best we could have done, really, considering we were down to 10 men, away at 5th in the league, away who's got, apart from the top 4, the best home record in the Championship, if I remember rightly. And look, we'll wait and see. This might be the first of 3 games against Bristol City within a few weeks. Like I said, Mayenda, he was the one positive for me. He certainly looks like he's coming on strength to strength, and it's a classic example about the model, about writing players off too quickly. That's all I'll say on that one. Quickly on Tommy Watson, I've got to mention him here, and I don't like singling players out here for bad reasons, but I've got to mention this. There was a couple of times in that game today where I think he shirked a couple of physical 50-50 challenges, and while I understand to an extent from his perspective that he is not wanting to get too... not want to push himself as much because of the move to Brighton. At the same time, while you're wearing a Sunderland shirt, mate, and you should know this if you're a Sunderland fan as well, that we will not tolerate players giving less than 100%. And if you're not going to give 100%, then you're ruining a reputation with Sunderland fans. And I know that some players won't care about that, but at the end of the day, this stuff matters to supporters. Like, if you're just going to peter out and... just sort of give 50% or whatever. Like, nah, I'm not having that. I think fans have every right to call players out. And look, it's a complicated enough situation with Tommy Watson, but yeah, he could help him. That's not going to help his cause, unfortunately. But look, guys, I'm going to leave you there. Look, this video is probably not very good. I've waffled on for nearly 8 minutes. Thanks very much. Apparently, there was a few people. There was at least one person asking after us at the Swansea game. So that was much appreciated. And yeah, obviously, I'll be back at the Stadium of Light for Blackburn on Monday. Look, let's hopefully see what happens in the last 3 games. For me, the last thing I'll say is our last 3 games, or at the least the last 2, because I know we've got Blackburn 3 days after today, so we need to kind of manage the squad a bit. I'd like to start getting a couple of wins ahead of the playoffs. It's not crucial to win the playoffs with good momentum, because Southampton proved it last year, but I'm not naive. I would prefer we went into the playoffs on good momentum. But let's see what happens. Anyway, guys, as you know, if you're watching the vid and you're not a regular sub and you think I've earned it from you, hit the sub button to be much appreciated. Like, share the video around, be respectful in the comments, and let me know what you think. And safe journey back to everyone who went to Bristol City, including Acacia and Nikki. Those 2 put me to shame in terms of away days. And yeah, see you all on Monday, everybody. Away the lads.